Hello everyone, welcome to my tutorial on how to make a pillow with someone's handwriting on it using the Silhouette Cameo 2. So this is what I had posted on my Facebook wall. The top part is an image of a greeting card with the handwriting of my supervisor's grandma. And then the bottom part is the pillow I made with this handwriting. 8 things you will need to do this project. 1, Silhouette Cameo and the studio software. 2, a computer. 3, a mat. 4, a pillow. 5, a hook tool. 6, an iron. 7, a measuring tape or ruler. And 8, a heat transfer vinyl HTV. I'm going to be using a glitter HTV on this project. To start the project, you have to open your Silhouette Studio, which I have mine's open, and you can see the mat on the screen. The next thing you need to do is find the file with the handwriting. So first you need a handwriting that you're planning to use. And once you have that, just snap a picture of it and email it to yourself or scan it onto your computer and give it a name. Give the file a name. So you can just say, Nancy's handwriting or Grandpa's handwriting, and just know where you save it so that you can find it easily. So the next part is to open that file. So for me, I named it a specific name, and I'm going to go find it. So here we are. We have to go to File and then click on Open. And here is my file right here. And then you just highlight it and open it. Unfortunately, I noticed before I started videotaping this that for whatever reason, this video that I'm using, it's not allowing me to open it while I'm filming. So I had opened it on a separate page. Here it is. So it would look like this once you hit OK. And of course, yours would look different because you have a different handwriting. So here it is. Here's the file. And this picture of the handwriting was on a greeting card, and the person who sent it to me placed it on top of his bed. So that's why you see this here, one color, and then this is the greeting card. But the point is that we do not need the background. All we need is the handwriting. That's what you want. That's what you want on your pillow. So in order to get the handwriting, we need to trace it out of this image. So to do that, and you can see everything stuck together right now because it's one image. We're going to go to the right-hand side, to the top, to the icon that's green and looks like a butterfly, which is your trace window. Again, it looks like a green butterfly. So we're going to click on that, and that's going to open the trace window. And here it is, the first part under trace, it says select trace area. That's what we're going to click. It's going to allow us to make a box around the parts that we need. So we're going to right-click and then drag. And all I need is the handwriting. We don't need everything else. We don't need all this. We just need this right here. So I'm going to click that. And once I remove my finger off of my mouse, it's going to highlight everything yellow. But it's a light yellow. You want it to be a darker yellow, because the darker it is, the more defined the cut will be when you send it to cut on your Silhouette machine. So in order to make it darker, we have to go to this part here in the right-hand side towards the middle called High Pass Filter right here. Below it says Value, and there's this little blue thing here which allows you to adjust the high pass filter. In this case, I want to go all the way to the right, and I think that the highest number it's going to let me go to is 300, or I can manually increase it by using this. But in this case, I just want it all the way to the end, 300. And see what happens? It became a darker yellow. It's going to be a more defined cut. So once we do that, because it's in an area that I want, it's the color I wanted, I'm going to go up here. And now you have to pick one of these 3 options under Apply Trace Method. Trace outer edge, or trace and detach. But what we're going to use in this instant is trace. But I do suggest that you learn all 3 of these things, because you could do a lot of cool things with other projects with these options. But for this pillow that we're doing, all we need is the trace. And once I click on that, the lettering is going to turn red, and that means it traced it out for you. The next thing I'm going to do is, you see where the hand is, I'm going to click on the image and drag down, and look what happens. Now the lettering that is left behind is what we need, and it's red. that means that that's going to be what we're going to cut out. But you see this down here, the picture, we no longer need this anymore. So we're going to right click on it and delete it. So here we go. Look, I want to move it around and you can see everything's still attached to one another. But look what happens. There's like 1, 2, 3 little specks left over that I do not want. So I want to clean this image up a little bit. But I'm just going to show you this again. You see everything's attached. For whatever reason, when I remove these things, these little dots, with the eraser tool, it, for whatever reason, detaches everything. So I just want you to be aware of that, because then once we remove the 3 dots, we have to group everything all over again. So like that, it's easier for us to move it all as one piece. Okay, so that first I'll erase it. So here we are to the left-hand side, the eraser tool, and I'm going to erase this. And it gives you different shapes of erasers. So I'm going to you can use whichever. I mean, like if you have a bigger spot, you might want to use the wider circle. If it's a smaller spot, you can use the smaller circle. But here I am going to use the larger circle, and I'm just going to erase those dots. I don't need them. So now I just want to show you, I'm going to select the select tool on the top left-hand side and just show you. I'm going to move and see, look what happens. The love moves away and the U, see, everything's separate. I don't want that. So I don't want all the handwriting to be separate. I want the handwriting all to be together. So I'm going to have to group everything back together. In order to group everything together, I have to right click and then just drag down, and you'll see little boxes all around all the words. And then I'm going to go to the bottom left-hand side and press the icon that says group text selected shapes. Again, group select the shapes. And once I do that, if I move everything around, you see everything's attached together. So this is what I want. Next thing I like to do is draw a rectangular box around the handwriting. And why I like doing this? I like doing this because it helps to weed out the vinyl. It's a trick I figured out, and by using it, I use less vinyl because it's kind of easier to find the box when you cut it out in the silhouette. So to draw the rectangular box, I go to the left-hand side to the icon. It's called Draw a Rectangle. So, and I draw a rectangle around. And just so you know, if you go and click on the select tool, you have the option of, if you click on the outside of the rectangle, you can make it larger or smaller. You can move it and adjust it accordingly. The tighter it is, the less vinyl you use. So if you leave it like this, you're gonna lose this vinyl, because once you weed it out, it's not gonna be useful. So the tighter it is, the better. So there you have it. Now you have the box. But what happens? It's not, you see, if I move it around, it's not grouped together. So we want it to be grouped together because we want it to travel together. So to group again, we're going to right click, drag down around everything you want. And then we're going to go down here to the bottom left-hand side, the first icon, group text shapes, okay? I'm going to click that. Once you do that, look what happens. It's all grouped together, which is great. Now, if you click on it again, you can make it larger. You can make it, wider. Next thing you have to do is figure out what size you want the handwriting to be for your pillow. What I suggest you do is get your pillow and measure it. I'm telling you this because luckily I did that with the pillow I ordered from Target. It was supposed to be an 18 by 18, but keep in mind the 18 by 18 was if the pillow was flat, and so it was round and curved. So when I actually took my measuring tape and I measured, it was more of like a 16 by 16 instead of an 18 by 18 because of the stuffing inside. So that's a note. So this also helps because once you have the tape measure on top of your pillow, you can kind of visualize what it's going to look like. So maybe, you don't want it to reach from corner to corner. I certainly didn't, because since, like I stated, the pillow was more of a curve. So if I were to make the writing from one corner to the other corner, it would be hard to read because it will be like on a curve. So I decided I wanted to make it more smaller and more compact so that it would look nice on the pillow. But everyone has personal preferences. So you determine what you want. Also, another thing to keep in mind is that the Silhouette mat is a 12 by 12. They have I believe, a 12 by 24, but I do not have it. And the standard size is a 12 by 12. That's what I have, and that's what I'm going to use. But you have to keep in mind, if it's an 18 by 18 pillow, you cannot make an 18-inch wide, handwriting, because then the Silhouette would not be able to cut it because the mat is only a 12 by 12. So unless you ungroup everything and send to cut it separately, but that's not what we're doing on this tutorial. I'm just going to adjust the size of this, and I'm just going to move it all the way to the corners, not too close, because remember, it has to cut out. So this is kind of like the size that I like, and you could move around a little bit with it. So this looks good for me. The next, just make sure that none of the lines are touching. You see, this eye doesn't touch the box that I made. If it did, you would have to ungroup everything and move the box so that it doesn't touch the handwriting. But in this case, everything looks fine. Next is figuring out what type of HTV you have. Apparently, the HTV that I have has the plastic in the front, and in the back it's the adhesive. However, if you were to touch the back right now, it's not sticky. And the reason it's not sticky is because you haven't applied the heat to it. You haven't applied the iron yet, so it's not sticky. A way to find out where the plastic part of the HTV is if you go to the corner and just peel it, a little bit of it, you will be able to see where the plastic is. My HTV that I have here that I'm using has the plastic to the front, which means the back is the adhesive. So what that means that we're going to have to take this image and flip it, which is known as mirroring it. So we have to mirror this image or flip it so that when it cuts out on the vinyl, it cuts out correctly. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is right click on the image of the handwriting, and we have to go up here to the top to this icon. I don't know how to really explain it. It looks like a long oval circle with a lot of little longer ovals around it. It's next to the icon with the M, and it's called the replicate window. Once we click on that, it's going to give you a whole bunch of options. And what we are going to focus on is this part right here where it says mirror. And you have mirror left, mirror right, mirror above, and mirror below. What I'm going to do, I'm going to mirror to the right, and it's going to copy the same image, but it's going to mirror it to the right. So now we no longer need this first one. So we're going to select it by right clicking and then just hit delete, and it's going to erase it. So now we're going to move this back onto the mat, because if you do not put it on the mat, it's not going to cut it. So here we are. And finally, that's the tracing part of this. Now I can't stress enough how important this part of the cut settings is. Okay, if you scroll towards the bottom right hand side, it gives you a list of material types, and you see right now the blue copy paper is highlighted. What that means, if we were to send it to the Silhouette right now, it's going to think that whatever material we have loaded in there is it's copy paper, and it's not. It's glitter HTV. And what happens? Copy paper is very thin. Meanwhile, the HTV vinyl is thicker. So if we don't set this up correctly, your project is not going to cut out correctly. So also keep in mind, there's vinyl, and then there's glitter vinyl, and there's different types of vinyls. There's heat transfer vinyls, and each one has a different it's made with different materials. So make sure that you scroll up and down all these options to make sure you pick the one that suits your project. So I'm not using vinyl. Okay, what we're using, it's a heat transfer vinyl. So I'm going to keep scrolling down. Okay, And here goes the first type, heat transfer material flocked, and there's heat transfer material smooth. So I am going to pick the flock. And then there's also an option later on that you could save your own, material. But I'm just going to click this just to, show you. So if I click it twice and scroll down on this blue scrolling down bar, it's going to show you, in this section is called editing heat transfer material. It's going to show you where your blade has to be set to, what speed, thickness, and then if you want to double cut, and it has a whole bunch of other options here. But what we're looking at is this section right here. And it's telling me for this specific material, the heat transfer material, that the blade should be set at 3 and the speed at 5 and thickness at 33. Since I did this project before, I figured out that with the glitter vinyl that I purchased, these settings did not work correctly for me. So what the settings that work with this material on my silhouette, and keep in mind, I have a blade. I've had my machine for years, so it might not be as sharp as a newer machine with newer blades. So each machine, I think it's a little different. So you have to try it out, for yourself. But for me, the cut settings that work were setting my blade to 5, my speed to 3, and the thickness to 20. Okay, and you can use this bar or you can manually go up and down this way. So I'm going to set that to 20. And another thing I like doing is writing this down. Before I had used a Silhouette brand vinyl, heat transfer vinyl in the past, and that vinyl was much thicker than this vinyl that I'm using right now. So, you have to keep in mind and you have to fool around. You're going to probably waste vinyl. And once you find a supplier you like, and if you plan to use that specific, like this is Scissor, Siser, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, brand, I loved it. So I'll probably be ordering this more often. So I'm going to keep these settings at 5 for the blade, speed for 3, speed at 3, and thickness at 20. So what I did, I wrote that on a sticky pad, and I put it, on my silhouette, so that next time I do this project, I know where to set my settings to. Okay, so now we have our cut settings where we want it to be, which is the blade at 5, speed at 3, and thickness at 20. The last thing I like to do before sending it to print is to go over to the right hand side to this triangle that's red over here. If you notice, if you look at your screen and you look at the handwriting, it's a lighter red, right? Once we click this red square, the writing is going to become a darker red, and where it becomes a darker red is where the silhouette is planning to do a cut. Okay, so I'm going to click on that and just look at the screen. Look how light red it is right now, and see how darker red it becomes. See, so all this dark red is what the silhouette is going to cut. Another thing that's very, very important that you must do, you see how we put the blade at 5 here? You must then change the blade in your silhouette machine. So just because you put 5 here doesn't mean that you have your blade in the silhouette machine set at 5. Okay? You have to make sure you take the blade out and that the 5 has a little red dot on the bottom. I'm using the Cameo 2, okay? I'm not sure what machine you have. I do not have the 3. I don't know. I know that's a little different because it has slots, I guess, for different blades and whatnot. I've never used it. I've never even seen the Cameo 3. So again, this tutorial is for the Cameo 2. So on the Cameo 2, when you remove the blade, it actually shows you a little red dot below the number, and that's how you know. And in the next video, I'm going to show you. But keep in mind, again, the blade on the screen shows as 5. So if you have your blade on the silhouette at 3, it's not going to cut, deep enough. So keep that in mind. I've done that mistake in the past because I assume that just because I put 5 here, that the silhouette blade is actually set to 5, and it hasn't been. Looks good here. So now I would hit the send to silhouette to print. But since I didn't show you I didn't show you how to change the blade, I'm going to do another video before we hit send to silhouette. Okay, so I'll do that video to show you a few of the glitter HTV vinyl that I purchased on Amazon. At the end of the video, I'll put a link to where I purchased it, and the brand is Scissor. I guess that's how you pronounce it, SISER. And I kind of really like this. I've only used this brand and the Silhouette brand in the past. The Silhouette brand I did not like. I felt like the glitter part of it was really thick and hard, and it was hard to cut it on my Silhouette. But this brand was very nice and easy to cut on the Silhouette. So I just kind of wanted to show you what I mean with the plastic. So this is the plastic side, and it's very shiny, and there's a plastic on top, so you're not touching the glitter on it. Okay, and then this is the back side on this type, and this is the sticky part on this heat transfer. However, if you see when I touch it, it's not sticky, and that's because in order for it to become sticky, we have to apply the iron on the top part for it to become adhesive. Okay, I'm just gonna place you guys on hold so I can show you. It's kind of hard to do with only one hand. Hold on a second. So I wanted to show you, this is kind of like what I mean. Like if you were to get the little corner and pull a little bit out of it, see the plastic is in the front and the glitter part is in the back. Apparently there are some heat transfer vinyl that have this plastic part towards the back. And it's important to know that because if it has the plastic in the back, apparently then you do not need to do the mirror transfer, because then that means the adhesive is in the front. But on the two types of HTV that I've purchased from the two brands, which was Silhouette and this type, SISER type brand, they both had the plastic in the front. But I just wanted you to be aware of that, because apparently there are some that have the plastic in the back. But since this heat transfer that I am using has the plastic in the front, that means that we'd have to, flip the handwriting, which we did in prior to this. So when we place this HTV on the mat, we have to make sure that the plastic side is on the bottom of the mat. So when it cuts out, it's cutting out on this side, okay? Another thing I wanted to tell you was to make sure that you measure your vinyl. This vinyl is actually not a 12 by 12. It's a 12 by 10, which is important because when you're laying out your page on Silhouette Studio, if you think it's a 12 by 12 and you make your design, let's say, big enough to fit the whole page of a 12 by 12, and you put a vinyl this size, which is only a 12 by 10, it's not, you don't have enough vinyl to make, your design. But in this case, it doesn't matter, because my handwriting that I'm printing out is going on the top part, so it doesn't matter. But that's just one thing that I would like you to keep in mind. So now we're gonna take our vinyl and we're gonna place it on the mat. And here's my vinyl. I'm gonna use this brown with gold. This side here, you see it's very shiny. This is where the plastic is. You can see by the light on reflecting off of it. This, and if I were to go to the corner and pull it, you'll see that the plastic part is in the front and the adhesive part is in the back, although it's not sticky because we haven't applied the heat to it yet. But since this is the sticky side, the adhesive, we have to make sure we flipped our, our handwriting in the Silhouette Studio, which we did already. So we have to put the vinyl this way, face the plastic front facing down. If you do not do this, then your image will not stick to the pillow because you would have cut it off in the wrong side. So now I have attached the vinyl to my mat, and the glittery side with the plastic is facing down, and this is the adhesive side. But you see it's not sticky because, like I said, we haven't applied the iron to it yet to make it, to activate the adhesive. So now we have it on our mat, and next we're going to enter it into our silhouette. So now I'm going to take the mat and enter into our silhouette. Make sure that it aligns to these blue lines on the left hand side. I also like pressing down to make sure it's like sticking to the mat correctly, because you do not want your vinyl to move while it's cutting because it's going to ruin it. Now we have the mat in the silhouette, and next we're going to go to this part to the right hand side, and you have different options for loading. You have load cut mat, load media, and unload. We're going to load the cut mat, the first one. And I've never in my life used the middle one, the load media, but apparently you can cut vinyl without the mat in the bottom. I've never tried it. I'm scared. I'm sticking to what I know how to use. So if I ever use that function, maybe I'll do a video for you guys, but as of the moment, I've never used it. Okay, so I'm back on the silhouette. I can't believe that I forgot to mention this when we were setting up the vinyl on the mat. So this is the blade here. So in order to remove it, we have to turn this knob to the left and then just pull it up. And there it is. That's the blade. And it has numbers around. And you see it has a little red line and it's under the 3. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to hold this and videotape at the same time. So here we go. So the little red dot, that symbolizes what number it is currently on. It's kind of like on 3. We want 5. So in order to change it, there's a little hole right here in the silhouette, which I never even knew existed there until a few months ago. So we enter it in here, and then we twist it. And you can move it back and forth, and it goes turning around. So here we go, and there's the 5, and it has the little red dot, and that's what we want. So depending on the number you pick, you'll see the blade. It's kind of hard. You see it right there? It's like silver. So the higher the number, the more of the blade you will see, and the deeper it will cut. So we're going to put this back into the machine and make sure the 5 is to the front, and make sure that you place it all the way down. Okay, so sometimes I think it's all the way down and it stays like this. So even if you close it, the blade is never going to reach the bottom. Okay, so just make sure it goes all the way down like so, and then lock it back into place by turning this knob to the right. That's very important. Okay, you must not forget to change the blade depth to match whatever you have on your Silhouette Studio. Okay, so if you have 5 in your Silhouette Studio, make sure your blade is on 5, because if I would have left this at 3, it would never cut deep enough into this vinyl. Okay, hopefully that tip helps. It helped me a lot. So our mat was loaded into our Silhouette, and now we're going back to the computer part, and we're going to send to print the design. So now we're almost ready to print. We have to make sure that we connect the Silhouette Cameo to your computer, okay, which I did, okay. And I'm sorry because I'm trying to videotape this part with my hand. So we're all set up. We have the blades at 5, the speed at 3, the thickness at 20. We made sure that our blade was at 5. We have our vinyl on our Silhouette mat, and we have it loaded in already. And here we go. We just have to send this to the Silhouette. There it goes, and there it starts printing. And I'll come back when it finishes. Okay, so the project finished printing. Okay, I just wanted to show you what I do before I even hit the unload button when it comes to vinyl projects, okay? Because vinyl is expensive. So I try to see if I'm running into any problems beforehand, before hitting the unload, because this is not a print and cut project in the sense that when and I'm not sure if you guys have gotten to that part yet of doing a print and cut, but when you do a print and cut project, you enter a registration marks on the top of and around the page, so the silhouette knows where to begin, cutting. But since this is not a print and cut and it has no registration, if I was to unload this mat and then try to weed the vinyl and then realize that the blade did not cut deep enough and that I can't remove anything, if I was to re-enter the vinyl into the silhouette, it's not going to start cutting in the same space, in the same spot. Okay, I'm not sure if that's a little over everyone's head, but I'm trying to explain it as best as I can. So I'm going to show you the trick that I kind of like doing. First, I look at the design. Okay, so here's the design. So I know that the rectangular box and the writing starts kind of like on this side here, so towards the bottom. So I'm going to go kind of try to figure out where that section is on here. And when you have certain vinyls like this, it's kind of hard to see. You can't really see where it cut. See, you can't see. It's hard. So on here, I try to see, and you see, you could kind of see a little line here. So that's where I would try to start weeding with it in my silhouette. Okay. So it's kind of hard because I only have one hand here. So this is my hook tool that I purchased. It's actually a Cricut hook tool, but it works perfect for this stuff. So if I was to kind of pull a little, you see, you kind of see it. So I see that the blade cut deep enough. So now I'm safe to hit the unload. If I do this and this letter doesn't cut out, what I would do is I would try to, stick this back in. And what I would do is just resend it and hit start back to the silhouette. And what that would do, it would do the cutting again. But since I have not removed it, the silhouette's going to start in the same place it started the first time. So in other words, it's going to cut in the same spot. So now instead of one cut, it's doing a double cut. Okay. And that way I've saved vinyl in the past. Again, if I was to hit unload before doing this and then realize that the blade was not, it didn't go down thick enough. And if I was to put this mat in again, it wouldn't start in the same spot. Because, the mat might have moved over a little bit. Maybe you didn't put it in the same spot. So you would have that problem. So that's my trick. That's what I like doing. And now if I sent it in, 2 times to print and I tried this again to remove it and the letter still doesn't cut out, I would just do it again and hit start again and send it to cut. So now it would have cut 3 times in the same spot. And I will continue to do that until it fully cuts out. I mean, it's a little tedious, but hey, you don't lose your vinyl. Now that I feel safe knowing that that my letters cut out on the vinyl, that the blade was deep enough, I am finally going to go and hit unload. And that's going to unload my mat. So next will be me weeding. So I'm going to continue weeding this, and then like I said, with the pick, the hook, it's a little easier to do. Sometimes you might just have to go back and weed a little. But you see, it's coming out pretty easy. Take your time. Here we go. Remove that because there's nothing there. And just take your time, especially since it's a thin script type handwriting. You might want to fast forward this part. I'm just trying to show everyone. You might get bored. And like I said, keep your computer nearby so you can look at your design. Since this had a lot of little X's around, it's a little, you need to know where they were, they're located, so it's easier to weed. And if you look at it on the other side, you could kind of see what it's looking like. So we have the back part done. We just have to clean up the U and over here in the love. Oh. You could use the hook to hold down the paper instead of your fingers, because your fingers are thicker, fatter. Oh, this is on the other side. Okay, we're just going to clean up the sides. I'm not sure if you guys can see because I can't look at the camera. We're going to remove this side here. Okay. And just remove things that might get stuck to it. Oh, here we are. Let me just, whoops. Place it next to the computer. So I love you XXX. There we have it. Let me just remove this little piece that decided to get stuck on here. All right, so there we have it. We have our finished design, okay? And then you see this is the plastic part I was talking to you about. And this part is sticky. And even though if you touch the lettering itself is not sticky yet, because once we put this on top of the pillow and iron it, it's going to activate the heat. It's going to activate the adhesive on the other side, and that's what's going to make it stick to the pillow. Hey guys, we're up to the part where we're going to place the heat transfer vinyl onto the pillow by ironing it to it. Okay, make sure you have your iron, and it could be any iron. The first thing I suggest you do is to iron out your pillow. This will help to remove all the creases that it may have, but it also heats up the pillow. So when we put the heat transfer vinyl on it, it will adhere better, okay? The first thing you have to do is to make sure you read, the directions for what settings to put the iron on for your pillow, because there's different materials. So just make sure that you have your iron set to the correct settings, because you do not want to burn your pillow. I finished ironing my pillow. As you may see, it doesn't have any creases anymore. And okay, so now it's there. Now, some of you might have some fancy tools. If you have a T-square ruler, that'll be great if you want to align it correctly in the middle, of your pillow. Or you could use a tape measurer to try to figure out where the middle is, and you can make a little dot with a pencil that's easy to remove. But whatever, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to eyeball it, okay? So here's my heat transfer vinyl, and that's my pillow. And, some people might want it in the bottom, and then you can add, something else, a bird or something. But for this one, all I want to do is kind of put it in the center. Okay. And like I said, since I only have one hand here, I'm not doing it correctly in the sense that I would use a ruler to make sure that I'm centering it correctly. But that seems good for me. So the next thing to do is to iron it, okay? And all you have to do is just place it. Some people place a towel on top of it, but I find that this worked better for me, okay? And just what I like doing is going up and down, across, up and down, across, okay? You might want to do this a couple of times, but make sure it's not on too high because it could burn your pillow, okay? And what I suggest doing is not pulling it all off at one time, because sometimes the letters do not adhere. So you would have to, make sure you go over it one more time. Okay, so here we are. So I'm going to start pulling it. See, the L did not stick on that. So what I would do, I would go right back on top of it. This is a little hard since I'm trying to hold the camera with one hand and iron on another. And you see what happens? The plastic starts shrinking. So that's why some people use a towel on top. It's up to you. I found this easier for me. Let me see, the L still hasn't gotten stuck on there because I'm trying to do this with one hand. So I'm going to place you on hold while I do it. So I ironed everything out, and now I'm going to start peeling off. And you see everything peels off now. Perfect. And there you have it. You have your pillow with your handwriting on it. So now what I kind of like doing, and make sure that your iron is not on too hot, especially for the pillow, the material of the pillow. I just kind of like going over it one more time so that it sets in to your pillow. Okay? There you go. For whatever reason, this video software is not allowing me to add the list of where I purchased the items. As I had said, I would put it at the end of the video. So instead, I have listed them on my YouTube channel, Dandy Nancy, underneath where you would subscribe. Hi, I wanted to thank you all for watching my video. I hope you were able to learn something new or useful out of it. Please subscribe to my channel, Dandy Nancy, by clicking on the subscribe button. Thank you.